one of the biggest misconceptions that we believe is Hamashiach has just told us that not very many people are going to find this narrow path. I don't know why we have this thought in our brain that everybody's going to find it, because everybody is not going to be willing. Notice when he said to make straight path for your feet, you had to endure the chastening in order to be able to endure that, to be able to even enter into that straight and narrow path. And this is the thing. Yahuwah did the same thing in the wilderness. He did it during the time of Amai. He's done it all with. He has to weed people out. He has to weed them out. Because he already knows who love him, and he already knows who doesn't. So he has to weed people out. It's a harsh reality that we don't like to face and we don't like to deal with. But yeah, he had to weed people out. Because we have to always remember, Yah is not looking at nothing other than our heart, because our heart is representative of our actions. Nevertheless, back to Genesis 32, because there's a point in it, and I made sure I hit it before I forget. Because I'm kind of tired, man. So we ain't firing on all cylinders like we supposed to. Look at verse 7. It said that Jacob was greatly distressed, and he separated the people, flocks and herds in two bands. And he said, if he came to one company and smited, the other one which is left would escape. Now let's look at that. And then look at Matthew chapter 24. See, if one got hit, another one would be free. That's kind of no different when we look at the aspect of dealing with the scapegoat. The scapegoat didn't get smited. The other goat got smited, and therefore the people could be forgiven when you look in that aspect. And that's Leviticus 16 for those who are not aware. Matthew chapter 24. And let's go back to I'll pick it up at verse 12. He said, because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. Now, we kind of talked about that Wednesday too. You know, that love is that love towards Elohim. Period. Do you know what I'm saying? Period. We can't try to love man before we love Yah. That's our biggest problem, because we don't really love Yah. We don't really love the Creator. Like he says in Romans chapter 1, probably about verse 21, it says, you know, we made the incorruptible Creator like corruptible 4-foot beasts and man, and tried to corrupt him and bring into him. This is why we don't understand and know his love and his righteousness and his truth, because we try to assign him the attributes of man versus man assigning to themselves. Well, I should take this back. That Elohim would be assigning man the attributes of Elohim through men learning, believing, and loving and obeying his instructions. So that's the problem. That's why you got all these humanists out here and these old, you know, Hotep niggas, and the black man and woman is God, and, you know, peace God and all that old other stuff that niggas got going on. You know what I'm saying? I seen niggas say all this information out here, man. Y'all still dealing with the Bible. It's false. Put it down. This is the hatred that people have for Yahuwah. Even those who claim the name of Yah. You know, Paul told us that everyone who named the name of Mashiach, let him depart from iniquity, because Yahuwah already knows those that are his. So, if you claiming the name of Yahushua, the name of Yahshua, you claiming that, you supposed to be departing from iniquity. That ain't even supposed to be a part of your vocabulary. And when I say vocabulary, we're talking about conversation as forth as conduct and behavior, your matter of life. That is not the life or the words that your lifestyle should be speaking. So when you claim it with your mouth, but you live it differently, then you're not a part of that. And you showing him that. And that should trouble you. That should bother you. On why am I so contrary? Why is it difficult for me just to obey? Why do I situationally obey? Why do I only obey when it's convenient for me? You know what I'm saying? Because that doesn't make any sense. If that's what you about, you're supposed to ride for it all the time. All the time. All the time. We will compromise it for individuals, situations, and circumstances where we feel like it'll be in our best interest, because truly we're moved by selfish motivation. I've told you this numerous times. This word is about selflessness. A selfish individual will never be saved. There is not an individual in this word who was ever selfish who Yahuwah delivered. Not one. There's not one. You know what I'm saying? Not one. Because he doesn't operate like that, because that is not his nature. Yahuwah is not a selfish individual. His son is not a selfish individual. His malachims are not selfish individuals. Therefore, his servants cannot be selfish individuals. As we continue to, Yah willing, that he keeps us alive, and we go through this law, you will see many precepts and many ordinances and many commandments that are truly about being selfless and putting someone else before yourself. You know what I'm saying? When we dealt with what it was to be a Malik or a king, you seen that the king is supposed to serve. He's supposed to put someone before himself. When you look at the testimony of Mashiach, and he told you to love your wife as a Mashiach loved the body. This is a husband serving his wife before himself. You know what I'm saying? This is what the whole book is about. That's when you can begin to see Elohim. As long as you remain selfish, and selfishness is not just as forth as contained of I want to do this or I want that. It's contained on my Elohim says refrain from this, but this is what I want to do. So my desires trump his. So therefore I'm going to do that. That is selfish. You know what I'm saying? Period. Because you're not thinking about him and what he's done for you. You only care about you and how it's pleasurable for you and what you can get from it. And most people only serve Yah for what they perceive they can get from him. That is selfish. You know what I'm talking about? Oh, he'll give me a blessing, or he'll give me. You're not doing it because you have a love for righteousness, because you have a love for truth, because you have a love for justice, because you have a love for judgment, because you have a desire to be Kadash in all things. It's because of what you believe you can receive from him. That is selfish. That's why he say he resists the proud and give favor unto the humble. That's why numerous people will be shocked and amazed when they have not found that they have received the Ruach HaKodesh in their name or not in this man's book of life, because of selfishness. You know what I'm saying? It is a disease to be appalled and abhorred and to be removed at the smallest inkling of its presence. Nevertheless, 24 and 13. But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. So notice that we read in Hebrews where he say, if you endure chastening. And endurance is all about perseverance. It's all about persistence. It's all about patience. And it's all about strength and fortitude. You know what I'm saying? The book says, the master said that you have kept the word of my patience. See, a lot of people fold up because they can't wait. And we talked about this before too. They can't wait. And you can't wait because you're selfish. Because I want what I want when I want it. And if it don't come quick enough, then I'm going to go do it myself. That is a total and complete lack of faith in Yahuwah. And therefore the benefits of godliness will never be proffered unto you. They'll never be given unto you. You'll never receive that. This is the aspect of the things that we supposed to consider. Anything that I'm saying right now, I've said it before. It's not the first. I mean, let's just be honest. If you preach this word long enough, you will be redundant on numerous things. You know what I'm saying? As it pertains to the matters of the heart. It's not 1,000,001 matters of the heart. It's not. It's not. This word is not difficult. These things are not complex. We make them complex. This is the reason why Paul said in the last days men will be lovers of themselves. Because people will be selfish. They will be selfish. They will not care. What can I get out of it? What me? That's all individuals is thinking about is themselves. And what they want and what they can get. As if Yahuwah is just here giving out party favors and gifts. But he has a gift for the selfish and the wicked. And it's called a place where the worm dies not and the fire shall not be quenched. And he has a place for the selfless. And that's the place of paradise where the tree of life resides. And pure river of life clear as crystal that all the righteous may stick their hands into and drink. That is for them. You know what I'm saying? We read it the other day. Though my servants will eat and drink. See, that's the difference. And this is another inkling of sitting back looking at why certain people can't get it together. Because you're selfish, rotten bastards who care about no other person, whether in Shamahim or in the earth, other than themselves. And it's impossible to be saved in that aspect. Verse 14, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. When you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the Kadesh place, whoso read, let him understand. Then let them which be in Yehuda flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. That was not what I wanted. Yeah, drop down. I'm sorry about that. Drop down about verse 36. It still work out though. But of that day and hour no man know but the Malachim and Shamahim, but my Abba only. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking and marrying and giving in marriage until the day that Noah entered the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Now I'm just going to reiterate a particular point when it comes to this right here. A lot of people feel like the world is going to be in, and it's going to be a lot of killing out here. Don't get it twisted, because you know the beast's going to be murking niggas. But you heard what he just told you people were going to be doing: eating, drinking, getting married. People are going to be going about a quote unquote regular everyday life. All this living like savages, and we got to live off the grid and we got to live off the land, because then you're not going to have this and the world going to be in utter chaos. That is not what this man told you how it was going to be when it comes. Those are constructs and machinations of men. This is not what the book says. That man say people going to be eating and drink. You're going to be living your life doing your thing. Will the world necessarily be in the state that it is right now politically? Absolutely not. But socially, it's going to be pretty much the same. You're just going to be under a harsh authoritative rule. That's it. It's just going to be a harsh authoritative rule. That's about it. But niggas going to be going to work. People going to be going to college. Niggas going to be out here faggots. Niggas going to be out here whoring. People going to be out here cheating on their wife. The junkies ain't going nowhere. You not finna be living like Max Thunderdome. That's not what's going to be happening. You ain't going to have to be fleeing, living in the woods, hiding. That's not what's going to be happening. Only the way people who going to have to be around here ducking and dodging and hiding is people who stand up for Yahuwah. That's it. Anybody else, they ain't really got no problem. They're going to be out here doing their thing. And that's how you going to catch them by surprise. Because they not watching. That's why he told you, you are not of the night, you're of the day. You can't be around here living like how these people around here and walking in riotness, running with transgressors and thinking they're straight. Nevertheless, he said, then shall two be in the field, and one shall be taken, and the other left. Two women shall be grinding at the mill, and the one shall be taken, and the other left. Watch therefore, for you know not what hour your master come. Now let's sit back and look at it. If one got smite, one escapes. So what you sitting back looking at, when all this stuff go down, one person gonna get smitten and another person gonna escape. Which one are you gonna be? Are you gonna be smited down with the sword, or are you gonna be kind of worthy to escape from the wrath to come? See, let's look at 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. And this is all because he has a place prepared for you. Will you stay in the way? Will you obey? Will you listen? Will you hearken unto the words that your Elohim has spoken unto you? Because the purpose of us going through this law, y'all willing, by the time we get completed, and y'all knows we'll probably still be dealing with this, guaranteed by the time Passover get here, is that you should have learned faith. You should have learned righteousness. You should have learned justice. You should have learned mercy. You should have learned long suffering. You should have you will have learned, hopefully, y'all willing and prayerfully, all of these things, and there's a couple other things. Sacrifice, you know what I'm saying? Correction. Anything that by the time that you get with it, that your heart should be changed. That you should truly know and understand your Elohim and know the direction that you ought to go, the people that you ought to cleave to, the mates that you ought to choose, the direction that you ought to raise your children. You know what I'm saying? All of these things. How to deal and move in a society of unrighteous people. Because he tells us how to do all of that. He tells us how to do all of that. On how to deal with all of that. There's nothing that this man did not leave for you to not understand how to move, so that your soul could be preserved. Now, if you don't have a desire for your soul to be preserved, then what I'm saying to you will mean absolutely nothing. And you will sit here and you will listen and you will continue to be the rotten, selfish, wicked, evil, sinful individual that you've always been. And when I say that, I'm not talking about behavior. I'm talking about an evil heart of unbelief. You didn't even get to no behavior. We're just talking about you don't believe. So in the eyes of Elohim, you are evil and detestable and despicable. You got to think about that type of stuff. We so be worrying about how everybody else view us other than him. His opinion is the one. That's why we read that John 5:44. You seek honor one from another, not the honor that comes from Elohim only. You're too concerned about what other people think about you versus what Yah think about you. Sit and ask yourself this question. What would Yah say to me if I asked him what he thought about me? Based on my level of faith and my behavior, what does he think about me? And if you cringe at the notion of what he would say in retort, you just got some work to do. Just got some work to do. Would you want it? Would he be willing to say, look at you and be like what he said about Daniel? Oh, Daniel, you're a man greatly beloved. Or would it be a Saul situation? This man sat back and said, I repent that I even made you king. I'm just disgusted. I am disgusted. That's the type of stuff you got to consider. What side of the ledger you going to be on? I pray for you, prayerfully, I will hope that you would be on the Daniel side of the ledger. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, y'all. And verse 9. For Elohim have not appointed us to wrath, but to obtain salvation by our Master Yahushua HaMashiach, who died for us, that whether we wake or sleep, we should live together with him. Wherefore comfort yourselves together, and edify one another, even as also ye do. So this man has not appointed us to wrath, because he gave you such a great gift of salvation. That's the same token what we're looking at in Exodus 23 when he told them to listen to that Malachim. He had not appointed them to wrath. But as we go back, y'all willing, and revisit Isaiah 63, we will see that they vexed him. They made him angry to where wrath befell them. See, the wrath of Elohim only comes because of our stupidity. Because that's not his objective. This man is not a sick, sadistic being like people want to make him out to be, because nobody wants to take accountability for their wickedness. You did it, nigga. You put yourself in this position for this to befall you. Stop blaming this man for your wickedness. And how about you be a man or a woman or adult and say, I'm wrong and this befell me, and let Yahuwah do as he please, for he is righteous. Because that's what Eli did. Eli said, hey, Yahuwah is righteous. Let whatever he saying seem good unto him, let him do. Oh, God killed way more people than the devil. Well, look at what these niggas was doing. Don't y'all ever, do you not realize when people had that conversation that they always neglect to mention what the people were doing? And that gives you a strong inkling in what type of heart this person has. That 99.9% of the time they are a wicked transgressor. And it is easier for them to blame Yahuwah for him exacting judgment upon wickedness than to sit back and say, y'all was just for killing the people. They shouldn't have been out here doing what they were doing. Those are people who lack accountability. Those are people who lack righteousness. And it's just like what we read in Jude. They are murmurers and complainers who speak hard speeches against the true and living Elohim, the creator of Shamahim, and the rats. Mighty and just is he, and Yahuwah of hosts is his name. And if any nigga got a problem with it, may he render judgment upon you as he see fits, when he see fit. You know what I'm saying? Because that's how I see it. I don't care how a nigga feel about you. Run your mouth. You will see him eventually. And you're not going to like it when you see him. This man say he has no pleasure in the death of him that died, but that a man turn himself and live. What is the problem? This man don't want to kill nobody. This man don't want to exact judgment on nobody. You bring this stuff on yourself. See, he's not the police pulling over no black man who's sitting back looking at ready to kill. This ain't the judge at the Duval County Courthouse and the numerous courthouses in the multiple municipalities all across the United States of America ready to bam a black man and give him 1,000 years. This man has no desire to injure anyone. Men have a desire to injure themselves. And then you don't want to accept your judgment, so you besmirch this man's great name. And he ain't going to go for it. He ain't going to go for it. You gonna catch it. He going to catch you when he catch you. That's the beauty of Yahuwah. He don't catch you when you think he gonna catch you. He catch you when he catch you. Because I'm going to see you. I'm going to see you. I might see you now. I might see you later. But I'm going to see you. Play with him if you want to. Now this ain't for the righteous. This for whoever like to disrespect this man. Play with him if you want to. Because the righteous already know. We already respect this gangster. You know what I'm saying? And salute him on every corner as we ought to. That's why I said before, if you're not a real person, then you can never see Yahuwah for who he is and respect his gangster and tip your cap. And say, that's my people right there. That's my man. That's my father. I model myself after him. Yeah, that's someone I'd like to emulate. So I do so. I have no problem with anything he stands for and anything he's about. I proclaim it across anyone who I come across. If they ask me about it, even if they don't ask, I may tell them anyway. How are you supposed to feel? You realize this is your literal father. Some of you brag on your natural parents. Which you would be, that's all you're doing with Yah when you speak of his justice and his righteousness and the things that he stands for, whether you do it in deed or in word, preferably in deed first. You know what I'm saying? You bragging on your father. This is who I emulate. This is who I'm about. This is what I'm about. This is what I stand for. Because that's what he stands for. This is what he taught me. Why do you think we always walk around in this world and say how people hate the real? Why do you think they hate Yah? Because he the realest. So of course those who join themselves unto him in Ruach and truth, they're going to hate you too. Because you're going to be real. Hello?
Yeah, that's
what's happening with you, bro? Come on back to Genesis 32. We still got John 14 on deck. That's all it is. That's why they hate Yah. You can't. People don't like the realness. They don't like it. Yah kept it above. And every time he kept it above, they wanted to kill the prophets because they couldn't kill him. Don't take that idea. But don't y'all be letting people around here talk about your father in heaven like he's some sick, twisted killer. You go ahead and tell them, no, you just a sick, twisted transgressor of his word. Disrespect my daddy like that. How you supposed to feel about it? You finna disrespect my daddy like you ain't finna do that. I'm not finna allow it. Not like that. You let some people, they run their mouth in some situations. Oh no, I ain't finna let that slide. You ain't finna be walking around here talking about my daddy just killing people. That man just don't kill people. He ain't never killed no man without cause. Ain't no man died by the hand of Yahuwah without cause. Not one. Not one. If he did, that would make Yahuwah unjust and a work of iniquity. But learn your God and know how he operates and what he about. The man just don't do stuff just to do it. We in verse 9. Truthfully, we're in verse 10. He said he's not worthy of the least of all the mercies and all the truth which he showed unto his servant. Let's look at that. I want to say 2 Timothy chapter 2. Look at a statement where you can see Paul pretty much saying this word for word. Not worthy of the mercy, not worthy of the truth which he has revealed. Which truth be told, I know that I'm not. You know what I'm saying? I sit back and look at this here, right? A lot of individuals feel like, oh, that nigga feel like he this or he that because he showed this. I don't think I'm nothing because I ought to be dead. You know what I'm saying? Or sitting in prison. I done told you that before. I'm supposed to be only a year out, 2 at the most, if y'all would allow the judge to accept what the state attorney said I should have went to prison for, which was 12 years. You know what I'm saying? 12 years. This is based off a charge from 2004. So that means that's 2016. And I'm going to tell you something. If you don't have a strong mind, 10 to 12 years in prison can warp your perception of life, period. You could come out messed. This dude's messed up for spending 15, 20, 25 years in the projects. You understand what I'm saying? It's dudes whose heads is messed up spending 10, 15 years in the foster care system. Because all of these things are about the same. You know what I'm saying? Mess your whole head up. And your mind don't be right. Some people's minds are not right because how they were raised, their upbringing, meaning the things that they saw in their household that a child shouldn't see, shouldn't have no knowledge of. It's like this here, right? A child should not be seeing men coming in or women coming in and out their parents' home. Child shouldn't be seeing violence of any sort, whether it's domestically or whatever the case may be, because it ain't always daddy beating on mama. You ain't got no business seeing all that. A child shouldn't have to see junkies everywhere. Shouldn't have to hear gunshots every day. Shouldn't see prostitutes or seeing people get killed, or even the police killing people. They shouldn't have to see that. They shouldn't have to be worried about where their next meal coming from, where they gonna sleep. Their parents are on drugs. You know what I'm saying? This is the stuff. Some of y'all can't relate to that because you ain't had to deal with it, and other people have, and that stuff can mess your head up. You know what I'm saying? So when you know where you come from and what you've endured or what you dealt with, a level of pride don't come up when you realize this man could have killed me because I did this and did this. Then on top of this, he revealed, because remember he said he revealed this truth you have showed your servant. Meaning this amat, this faith, this firmness, this soundness, giving you an inkling into the future of the revealing of the firmness and sound. Because remember, he said, anybody who hear my word, I liken them to a man who built his house upon a rock. Because it don't get no firmer than a rock. You know what I'm saying? That's why when I heard the founders of Rockefeller say, yeah, that's the reason why we put rock on everything, because rocks are solid. You know what I'm saying? As a metaphor for solid, honorable individuals. That's what we were about. That's what we represent. And then you sit back and you look at our Elohim constantly and consistently refer to himself as a rock. The rock of your salvation. I'm likening you to a man who built his house upon a rock. That spiritual rock, which is Mashiach, is somebody who's solid, somebody who's firm. You know what I'm saying? These are the elements of the attributes of your Elohim, which we're not going to get too deep into that rock aspect right now, because we'll deal with it when we run across the passages in the law where it's mentioned. But we're just setting that up. There's a reason why he's the chief cornerstone. Solid. Something that you can build upon, that is sturdy and firm, which will not bend, which will not fold, which will not crumble. Even in the face of adversity, even in the face of weakness, it will stand firm. This is what you're supposed to sit back and look. See, we pick these things out the script. We see these things out the script, and you're not looking at what is actually being imparted to transmute to your character, to your spirit, to your heart, to where that begins to manifest that you are that rock, because that rock resides in you. And then you manifest the attributes of that rock, versus just reading stories and answering questions because your head is filled with knowledge, but your heart is devoid of righteousness. That's not how you want to be. You want a mind full of knowledge and a heart filled with righteousness, which will manifest everlasting life. Nevertheless, 2 Timothy chapter 2, is that what I want, or is it chapter 1? Is it 1 Timothy chapter 1 I want? I think it might be. And it is 1 Timothy chapter 1, everyone. We'll look at verse 12. 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 12. What time is it now? And I thank Yahushua HaMashiach, our master, who have enabled me, for he counted me faithful, putting me into the ministry. Who was before a blasphemer and a persecutor and injurious, I obtained mercy because I did it ignorantly in unbelief. And see, that's the biggest thing too. When you sit back and look at it, right? We can obtain mercy when we do things and you didn't know. It's hard for him to extend unto us an arm of mercy when we know what we're doing is wrong. And I'm talking about doing things where you know that that man could kill you for it. This is one of the instances and reasons why he say there's no sacrifice for sins if we sin willfully. Because it's going to be hard for him to extend that mercy because you know exactly what you're doing. And we know that our law doesn't have a sacrifice for willful sin. You know what I'm saying? But as the Apostle John said, if any man sin, little children sin not, but if any man sin, you do have an advocate, Yahusha, the righteous. Prayerfully, if any man or woman had done that, then he would advocate on your behalf that Yahuwah will have mercy upon you. That is something that I can't tell you that he will or he won't do. You know what I'm saying? But one thing I can tell you, that if you consistently and repeatedly flaunt and disregard his word, there ain't gonna be no mercy for you. That I can tell you with outright confidence. You know what I'm saying? There's nowhere around that. There's no need or reason that if we say this is what we want or what we desire, then whatever it is, the problem come in at is, this is what the problem come in at for any man, woman, and child on the face of the planet. Thoughts arise in your heart. These thoughts cause you to want to go contrary to the word. You do not allow the word to shoot down those thoughts. You allow those thoughts to continually manifest in your heart. And then you begin to stew upon them. And then you begin to wonder what it would be to act upon them. But then you know what don't cross your mind as you sitting there thinking about if you should act upon it, what you will lose. I'll give you an example. And I told you this before. When you look in the text, the wife is a gift from Elohim to man. That's a gift from Yah. Yah gave man a woman so he wouldn't be alone. That's a gift. So you sit back, and we're not just talking about spiritual wise for somebody being the word, just natural stuff, because this is easy to relate to because people do it all the time. People do it all the time in the word too. So I guess it's still the same. A man sees a nice looking woman. Maybe she's not even nice looking. Maybe she's just something different and she's offering some manner of physical gratification. Maybe he finds this woman attractive in some shape, form, or fashion, and he begins to think about what it would be to have physical relations with this woman. He doesn't sit back and think about, if I do this, I'm going to hell. And then on top of that, I will lose my gift, which is my wife. And that loss of going to hell and losing my family is not worth it. So therefore, I will cast that thought down because this is pure and utter stupidity. Well, it's no different than any manner of sin that can arise in your heart. I could steal this car, but I'm going to jail. And when I go to jail, I'm going to put my family at a disadvantage. So therefore, I will not steal this car because it is not worth it. That is just as simple as it is on bringing every thought into the obedience and the captivity of Mashiach. By taking that and imprisoning it by the word, because you would look at what you could lose. Let's just keep it as simple as this. If I break this Sabbath, I separate myself from my Elohim. The thought and the anxiety and the terror of being separated from him is not worth it. Therefore, I will shoot that thought down. That's all it really takes is, but you know what ends up happening? We don't care if we lose it. Because we don't deem that wife precious. We don't deem that salvation precious. We don't deem that closeness with Yah precious. We don't deem that freedom precious. I use the instance of jail as meaning now you're back into the bondage of sin. And now you're entangled with that yoke. Because where the Ruach of Yahuwah is, there is freedom. See, when you sit back and you look at where he is, you're free. You're free from sin. You're free from death. You're free from the bondage of the flesh. And you sought to be entangled therein by hearkening to those thoughts, by hearkening to those desires. And now you're locked up again. That's just as simple as that. We push that stuff down because we don't value those things of what we could lose. Because we feel like that temporary pleasure or that temporary release or whatever the case may be was more important than what you had or what you could gain from Yahuwah. And that's selfishness all over again, because you don't deem it and you don't value that. You don't seek to lose things that you hold valuable. You know what I'm saying? You don't. We don't hold his salvation valuable. Therefore, that's why we don't care about losing it. Nevertheless, because when we sit back and look at it, he say he's the least of all the mercies and all the truth which you show. Let's look at the next thing Paul says here in verse 14. He says, "And the favor of our master was exceedingly abundant with faith and love, which is in Yahushua HaMashiach. This is a faithful saying and worthy of all exception, that Yahushua HaMashiach came into the world to save sinners, of whom I am chief. Howbeit for this cause I obtained mercy, that in me first Yahushua HaMashiach might show forth all long suffering, for a pattern to them which should hereafter believe on him to life everlasting." You come back to Genesis 32. In another place, Paul say, he was the least of all the apostles, because he know that he's not the smallest of Yahuwah's mercies. None of us are worthy of. And if we sit back and we this was the humility of Jacob. This is how he looked at it. He didn't look at. See, I'm gonna tell you something. Most people are entitled. You feel like someone owes you. You feel like people supposed to do this and people supposed to do that. That's a despicable trait. Entitlement is a despicable trait. Despicable. It's outright disgusting. Even more abhorrent in a woman. It's disgusting, and I guess I'm saying that because I'm a man. It's utterly disgusting in a man as well. It's equally as abhorrent either way. The reason why I say it's abhorrent, because no man wants a woman who feels like somebody owes her something, and that you supposed to do it because she's a woman, or you supposed to do it because she's pretty, or you supposed to do it because my daddy did it, or this person did it. We're not talking about the things that a man is supposed to do. We're talking about entitlement. You're owed. Because seeing it in a man, I guess it's doubly disgusting, because entitlement is such an immature or even borderline feminine trait. You know what I'm saying? I think y'all, my mom and my auntie and my granddaddy raised me that nobody owes you anything. The world don't owe you nothing. Nobody's going to give you anything. See, people feel like somebody's supposed to give you something and to jump at your every whim. And that's not humility. Jacob understood he was not worthy of the least of those mercies that Yahuwah had to extend. I think, he gave me a mind to understand that you're not worthy of nothing. And you haven't done nowhere near as horrible deeds as other individuals have done in your lifetime, but nevertheless your deeds is just as evil as it's wicked, because there's not a scale. Niggas kill me with its levels to certain. It ain't a level to nothing. A sin is a sin as far as who is concerned. There's no level. His sin 3 levels worse. No, it's gonna get you the same reward, so it doesn't matter. This person killing versus this person stealing, y'all don't look at it no different. I'm gonna kill both of y'all if you don't repent. You can't say you repent, turn around and do it again. You haven't repented, because that's not a change in behavior. You didn't turn from that behavior. Remember, sin in Hebrew means to miss the mark. We continually miss the mark because we're not aiming for that mark. And that mark is sitting at the right hand of the Father. How long will we continue to miss it? It's right there in your face. How are we failing an open book test? Do you know how y'all used to clown people in school who got F's on open book tests? I hope ain't none of y'all ever failed no open book test, because that means you are devoid of simple intelligence. How do you fail a test and you got all the answers? All the answers are there. And then if he give you somebody who can give you knowledge and understanding so you can understand it, then what is your reason for failing? It's because you didn't want to pass. You didn't want to pass. Nevertheless, what we at? Verse 11. I got to crank it up a notch because it's almost 10 o'clock. We're in verse 11. I'll take it at verse 11. "Deliver me, I pray thee, from the hand of my brother and from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, lest he will come and smite me and the mother with the children. And thou said, I will surely do thee good and make thy seed as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for multitude." You know that verse 11 when he say, "Deliver me from the hand of my brother because he fear him"? That just take us back to what Hebrews tells us about how we were always in fear of death. And that you needed someone to deliver you from it. Same way you were in fear of Pharaoh and you needed somebody to deliver him from you. Or whether it's Babylon, or whether it was Medes and Persia, or whether it was the Philistines, or whether it was the Amorites, or now whether it is the Caucasian, or whether it's the Arab, or wherever you seem to be subjugated at in the four corners of the earth, because you fear these people because they're going to smite you. That's what one of the curses said. You'd fear these people because they would smite you one way and you flee another and you'd be smitten again. So now you were sitting back looking at sin has been smiting you and you feared it because you fear death. If you around here like this, you should the only way you should not have a fear of death because you rest in the Shalom Elohim. Because if you ain't resting in Shalom Elohim, you ought to fear death because it's coming for you. And I ain't talking about going in no casket. Because it's coming for you. You can't be living a life of sin and tell me you don't fear death. You a special type of stupid. Straight up and down. You can't tell me you fear death and you do things to bring about death. That means you love it. Matter of fact, since I said that, Isaiah chapter 20. (28 and 15). See, our people, we love death. We love it. It makes us feel great. At 8. Because you have said, we have made a covenant with death, and with hell we are at agreement. When the overflowing scourge shall pass through, it shall not come unto us, for we have made lies our refuge, and under falsehood we have hid ourselves. And that goes back, come back to Genesis 32, that goes back with what we read Wednesday too, that when you are hearer of the word and not a doer, you deceive your own self. Because you are partaker of the father of lies. Because we're making an agreement with death. So I take that back. Clearly you don't fear death. If you can commit sin and live in sin, clearly you don't fear it. Clearly you ready to embrace it and hug it and become one with it. Clearly. Not really realizing what you're going to encounter upon the awaking from your rest. Because then you'll be troubled and tormented for all eternity. But but let's just put the fire and worms to the side. If you knew, just like I said, you look at the parable with the rich man and Lazarus, and he would ask him for Abraham to cool him off, just dip some little water on his tongue. If you knew that Yahuwah was right there, right in a particular area, you could look at him, you could see him, but you couldn't come unto him because he had to separate himself from you because you were filthy and vile and despicable and abominable and abhorrent. And the only thing you wanted to do was to become close to your maker, but you couldn't reach him because your sin kept you away from him. That's what should bother you more than fire and worms. The fact that Yahuwah is right there and you can see him and you can't come near unto him because your sin has separated you from him. Put it in those terms and think about it like that. Put the fire and worms to the side, which you would be in the fire and worms at the point where you can actually see him. But put the fire and worms to the side and sit back and think, how would your heart feel knowing you could see Yahuwah, but you couldn't come near unto him? You could see Yahusha, but you couldn't come near unto him. You could see the whole host of Shamahim, and you couldn't come near unto them. You could see all the righteous from every generation, and you can't come near unto them. And you call out for relief, and there is none. You call out for the mercy of Yahuwah, and there is none. But his back to you, because you could never become one with him. You could never come close to him, and you could never dwell with him. That should be more fearful than anything. But people don't sit back and look at it that way because they don't really want to see him and they don't really want to be with him. We are in verse 13. And he lodged there that same night and took of that which came to his hand a present for Esau his brother, 200 she-goats and 20 he-goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 milch camels with their colts, 40 kine, 10 bulls, 20 she-asses, and 10 foals. And he delivered them into the hand of his servants, every drove by themselves, and said unto his servant, pass over before me, and put a space betwixt drove and drove. And he commanded the foremost, saying, When Esau my brother meet thee, and ask thee, saying, Whose art thou? Whither thou go? Thou, and whose are these before thee? Then thou shalt say, They be thy servant Jacob's. It is a present sent unto my master Esau. And behold, he is behind us. So he said that he was sending a servant to prepare a way. This should be quite easy for you to catch on to. Let's go to John chapter 1. Because we're looking at a Malachim being sent to prepare the way. And he told you to listen to him. But he can't forgive your sins, though. And we'll see how that works. John chapter 1. Also could also mean Malachim just mean messenger or servant. Doesn't necessarily have to be a heavenly body. So just so you can understand why we're about to read what we're about to read and how that's going down. John 1 and 15. John bare witness of him and cried, saying, This is he of whom I spake. He that come after me is preferred before me. You have to realize that Jacob was coming after that servant, and Jacob definitely was preferred before the servant that was sent. For he was before me. In his fullness have all we received, and of his fullness have all we received, and grace for grace. For the Torah was given by Moses, but grace and truth came by Yahushua HaMashiach. No man have seen Elohim at any time. The only begotten Son, which is in the bosom of Abba, he have declared him. And this is the record of John, when the Yahudim sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, Who art thou? And he confessed and denied not, but confessed, I am not the Mashiach. And they asked him, What then? Art thou Elijah? He said, I am not. Art thou that prophet? And he answered, No. Then said they unto him, Who art thou? That we may give an answer to them that send us. Somebody to mute their phone. What say thou of thyself? He said, I am the voice of one crying in the wilderness. Make straight the way of Yahuwah, as said the prophet Isaiah. And they which were sent were the Pharisees, and they asked him, and said unto him, Why immerse thou then, if thou be not that Mashiach, or Elijah, neither that prophet? Yachanan answered them, saying, I immerse with water, but there stand among you one whom you know not. He it is who come after me is preferred before me, whose shoes latchet I'm not worthy to unloose. These things were done in Bethbara beyond Jordan, where John was baptizing. The next day John seeth Yahushua coming unto him, and saith, Behold, the Lamb of Elohim, which take away the sin of the world. This is he of whom I said, After me come a man which is preferred before me, for he was before me. So look at this in the aspect. He sent a man named John bearing a gift. That gift was this. Malachi chapter 3. Malachi chapter 3. Malachi 3 and 1. Behold, I will send my messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me. And the master whom you seek shall suddenly come to his temple, even the messenger of the covenant whom you delight in. Behold, he shall come, saith Yahuwah of hosts. But who may abide in the day of his coming? And who shall stand when he appear? For he is like a refiner's fire and a fuller's soap. And he shall sit as a refiner and a purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi, and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto Yahuwah an offering in righteousness. Then shall the offering of Yehuda in Jerusalem be pleasant unto Yahuwah, as in the days of old, and as in the former years. So we look at what is the gift which John the Baptist came to bring. And that gift was he was coming with the immersion of repentance to set up that way, to set up that, because he mentioned Isaiah chapter 40. And he said he had to prepare the way, because he was telling them that the Lamb of Elohim is coming to take away sins. And John is representative of that Malachim who he sent to bring you in the way that he has prepared. That way that he had prepared is just look at John 14 and 6. is Yahushua. Because remember, he said he is before me. He's preferred before me. He's preferred before me because he was before me. This way was already prepared. It should take your brain to Proverbs chapter 8 when he said, I was with Yahuwah in the beginning of his way. This way was already prepared. John is coming through and he's preparing that way, and they were supposed to listen to John. And we're going to look at the aspects of where Mashiach told them, you should have listened to John. 14 and 6. No, 14 and 5. Thomas saith unto him, Master, we know not whither thou go, and how can we know the way? Yahushua saith unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no man come unto the Father but by me. If you had known me, you should have known my Father also, and from henceforth you know him and have seen him. So let's look at examples of where the scribes was talking real reckless, and how Mashiach sat back and told them, you ought to have listened to the individual who was preparing the way. Let's go to Matthew chapter 11, if I'm not mistaken. And I still ain't worked the other part of it. Matthew 11 and 11, I suppose. No, make it 4. Well, make it 2. Matthew 11 and 2. Now when John had heard in the prison the works of Mashiach, he sent 2 of his disciples and said unto him, Art thou he that should come, or do we look for another? Yahushua answered and said unto them, Go and show John again those things which you do hear and see. The blind receive their sight, and the lame walk, and the lepers are cleansed, and the deaf hear, and the dead are raised up. And the poor have the gospel preached to them. And Baruch is he whosoever shall not be offended in me. Now, when we look at this, and clearly the word offended should be self-explanatory. But when we look at the Greek word for offended, it is scandalizo. And is to put a stumbling block or an impediment in the way, upon which another may trip and fall, to entice to sin, to cause a person to begin to distrust and desert one whom he ought to trust and obey, to cause to fall away, to be offended, to see in another what I disapprove of, and what hinders me from acknowledging his authority, to cause one to judge unfavorably or unjustly of another, since one who stumbles, whose foot gets entangled, feels annoyed, to cause one displeasure at a thing, to make indignant, to be displeased or indignant. This thing literally says the Greek word for the definition for offended is somebody who no longer trusts and obeys someone. So you say, blessed is the man who remains to trust and obey him, who will never stop trusting and obeying him. Because we looked at that earlier, that agreement with hell and death. That agreement from hell and death comes because you don't trust this man. So therefore, you cease to obey him. See, let's look at something. Acts chapter 5, verse 30 real quick. So you're blessed when, and let me read that again when we look at offended. Let me read that one more time. Again, it's to entice to sin. You know, we know that Proverbs 1 tell you that. If sinners entice thee, my son, consent thou not. You know, be not deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners. So this is what can cause you to be offended when you're enticed by sin. Therefore, the rigorous discipline of the word, it offends you. Because you're being drawn away. Or you fall away. You know, a lot of people say, oh, the great fall, people falling away, and, you know, people sit back and all this here, but people are falling away because they're falling away to the lusts. This goes right back to what we read in Matthew 24, back, because the love of many shall wax cold, iniquity will abound, because people are offended, which takes us back to what we read in Jeremiah 6 and 10. If it wasn't this week, it was last week, that our ears is uncircumcised, and we cannot hear, because the word of Yahuwah is a reproach unto you. It's a reproach. You don't have a delight in it. It offends you. It offends you. See, and we look at the next thing, to be offended, or you don't want to acknowledge his authority. See, now when I'm sitting back thinking about when we look at that, or somebody who makes you indignant or you displeased, that takes me to the parable in Matthew 21 about the people wanting to take over the vineyard because they did not want this man to rule over them. And they were filled with indignation. Now we're going to wrap this Malachi chapter 3 back in a moment. But they were filled with indignation because they did not want to submit to his authority. And that's what our problem is now. That's why he said you're blessed if you are able to be under this man's authority. And if you continually trust and obey him. Because when we go contrary to the word, we're telling him we do not want to be under his authority. He said, why do you call me master, master, and do not the things that I say? So that means he's not your master because you don't have any desire to be under this man's authority and rule. You don't want him to rule over you. You don't want him to rule over you. Every time that we commit sin, we are saying that we would rather have Hashatan, that serpent, that devil, rule over us and be our master. Because Romans 6:16 is very clear. To whoever you yield your member service to obey is your master to whom you obey. Whether it be sin unto death or righteousness unto life. So every time we commit sin, we are saying, I want the devil to rule over me. He is my ruler. He is my master. I follow his authority. And the only thing this man had authority over was death. Which is another reason why he said you made an agreement and a covenant with death and the grave. Because you agree with that because he is your master. The devil is your master. He is your ruler. That is who you answer to. That is your father. Period. So if that troubles you and you don't want that to be, because I just know somebody, shoot, the devil ain't my master. But if we sin it, the text say different. We have to learn to sit back and if you get pricked in your heart by the word, instead of always getting cut by the word, change. It's just that simple. It's a simple equation. Just change. We're in verse 7. And as they departed, Yahushua began to say unto the multitudes concerning John, what went you out in the wilderness to see? A reed shaken with the wind? But what went ye out for to see? A man clothed in soft raiment? Behold, they that wear soft clothing are in kings' houses. But what went you out for to see? A prophet? Yea, I say unto you, more than a prophet. For this is he of whom it is written, behold, I send my messenger before thy face. Same thing we seen in Exodus. Which shall prepare the way before thee. Same exact thing we seen. So we can see that this Malachim in Exodus is also bearing witness to John the Baptist and not Yahushua HaMashiach. Because they were supposed to listen to John. But they didn't listen to John. The same way your ancestors didn't listen to that Malachim. They didn't listen. Because he was preparing the way to get you where you were supposed to go. Which was to rest. Which was to Yahushua. They couldn't see it. John was preparing the way to get you to where you needed to go. Which was rest. Which is Yahushua. And they couldn't see it. Still can't see it. He say, truly I say unto you, among them that are born of women, there have not risen a greater than John the Baptist. Notwithstanding, he that is in the least of kingdom of Shamahim is greater than he. And from the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of Shamahim suffer violence, and the violence take it by force. For all the prophets of the Torah prophesied until John. And if you will receive it, this is Elijah which was for to come. He that have ears to hear, let him hear. You notice how the master put that. He said, if you'll receive it, cool. But he didn't try to make them believe it. He said, man, if you can believe it, this is Elijah. And if you got ears to hear, then hear the word. If not, oh well. Y'all don't even see how he did that. He didn't sit back and say, you got to believe it. He didn't go on a great mission to try to convince you. He just said, if you believe it, this is Elijah. And if not, oh well. And if you don't really, and that's where I've always had my for lack of a better term, my attitude when it comes to things of that nature. If you believe it, cool. If you don't, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? He that had ears to hear, let him hear. He that got a heart to hear the word of Elohim, they'll hear it. I'm not here to convince you. I'm here to persuade you to save your soul, but at the same token, I'm going to preach Yahushua to you and pray that this man turn you from opposing yourself. At the same time, I'm not here to convince you. If you don't believe it, then cool, nigga, I don't care. I sincerely and truly don't care if you believe it or not. Because that's the same attitude that he told Ezekiel to have. Tell them whether they hear or forbear. Don't break your neck worrying about it, caring about if they want to hear it or not, or if they believe it or not. You know it's true. You know it came from me. That's all that matters. And those who are of me, they will hear my voice. That's all that matters. That's period. That's all that matters. If you're not of his sheep, then you're not going to hear it. It's too many times we could read in this book where the master was preaching or speaking to a large group of people, and he stopped talking to the people who didn't believe and focused strictly on the people who believed. He could care less about the other people who were standing right there. They were no longer of his concern at that point. But we don't like to hear that, because that tears down the image in your brain of you thinking this man is pity-patting and loving and hugging everybody, and he don't. If you don't want to eat, that's his attitude, that's his feeling, that's his perspective. If you don't want to believe it and you don't want to hear it, that's cool. I'll see you later. But right now I'm focused on those who do. You know what I'm saying? He ain't even greatly offended that you don't want to believe. It's okay. I'm going to show you my offense later. You will see how offended I am later. You ain't got to worry about it. I'm not offended right now. I'll hold it for later. Because maybe you might turn and I might not have to drop the load off on you. He said, but whereunto shall I liken this generation? It is like unto children sitting in the markets and calling unto their fellows, saying, we have piped unto you, and you have not danced. And we have mourned unto you, and you have not lamented. And those are strong words which the master said, of which I feel exactly what he's talking about as time has gone past. Because that is just like how our people are. You play the music for them, they don't dance. You cry for them, and they don't cry back. Because they just don't care. It doesn't matter to them. They don't care. You know what I'm saying? We simply just don't care. We like to play lip service, and our hearts are moved far from him. We don't be steadfast in his covenant. We're not solid. We're not dependable. We're not reliable. We're not consistent. We're not trustworthy. We're not just. We just playing. And that's sad. And for what? We shouldn't pick this book up to go to hell. You could do that doing what you want to do. For John came neither eating nor drinking, and they said he have a devil. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say, behold, gluttonous, a man gluttonous and a wine bibber and a friend of publicans, but wisdom is justified of all her children. And the reason why that's important is they looked at John and they had a particular viewpoint. Look at my apologies. They looked at Mashiach and they had a particular viewpoint of what type of man that he was. And they judged him based on what it looked like, and they ran their mouth against this man when this man was a just man. Because he wasn't how they wanted him to be, or how they thought he should be. Oh, he hang out with sinners. Oh, he always sitting down with these people eating, sipping wine. That nigga a drunk. He gluttonous. You know what I'm saying? This is how they judged him. But the man told you a laborer is worthy of his hire. You didn't sit back and look at. They never called the priest gluttonous when the people would come and bring in their sacrifices and they sat down and ate that. Because that's all he was doing. These people wanted to present him with a gift the same way they presented Yah with a gift when they brought a sacrifice to the temple, which was a meal. This man's a priest. Nevertheless, Matthew chapter 21. and verse 23. I don't know, man. I don't know, man. It is what it is, man. After Matthew 21, Matthew chapter 3. But as you can see, that Malachim in Exodus 23 is a parable or a similitude of John the Baptist. And since I said that, after we read Matthew 3, we will read Hosea 12 and 10. Matthew 21 and 23. And when he was coming to the temple, the chief priests and the elders of the people came unto him as he was teaching, and said, By what authority do thou these things, and who gave thee this authority? Yahushua answered and said unto them, I also will ask you one thing, which if you tell me, I in likewise will tell you by what authority I do these things. The immersion of John, whence was it? From Shamahim or of men? And I didn't finish Acts chapter 5. We will return to it in a moment. And they reasoned within themselves, saying, If we shall say from Shamahim, he will say unto us, Why did ye not then believe him? Now let's go back to Acts chapter 5 and let's look at that. Notice what he said he asked them. When he asked them, was it from Shamahim or from men, he was basically asking them, did y'all have John do this, or did John do it of his own accord? So after we read this Acts chapter 5, we'll swing to something in Numbers 16, if I'm not mistaken, to see where you can see where Moses makes the same statement and Mashiach made the same statement, because after a period of time you'll be able to tell if a work is from Yah or is it from men. See, we judge things by the wrong things. How big of a building somebody preaches in, how many people listen to this person preach, or how many accolades a person might receive, or even the monetary income of the individual doing so. And this is how we judge and determine who Yah is with. Pure stupidity. You know what I'm saying? Because there's many people in this world we would have overlooked by those same standards. Then we wouldn't have listened to John either, because John was just in the wilderness with a garment made of camel's hair and a girdle around his loins. You wouldn't have listened to Mashiach either, because this man said he ain't had nowhere to lay a head at. That means you might have not even listened to Moses because he had a speech impediment. You might have not listened to Elijah because this man roamed around. You have to sit back and look at that, because how you judging who you'll listen to based on outward appearance or the things of this life that a person may attain to, so you feel like Yah's with a person. That means some of these men in this word you would have overlooked, which means you would have went to hell, because clearly you don't believe in Yah, because he never taught you or told you that. Which we've dealt with this, and it was a very, very long time ago. Some of you I may have not even known at that particular time. But he said he chose the base things out of the world to bring to naught the things that are mighty. An example of that is Gideon. Gideon said he was the least in his father's house, and he made him a judge and a deliverer. An example of that is Saul. As dumb as Saul was in the end, Saul said he was the least in his father's house. He made him king. David was the least in his father's house. He made him king. Yahushua came from Nazareth, of which the text said, can any good thing come from Nazareth? And he made him King of kings, Master of masters, and the Savior of the whole world. Things that are despised and rejected of men, the things that people look down upon with disgust and feel like, oh no, not him. How could he do that? You know who that is? Because you know why? Because if you use somebody who's mighty, somebody with status, somebody with money, you stupid niggas will give the praise and esteem to that man and not to Elohim. He already know you gonna do it, because that's what niggas do, because they ride the genitalia of men. You want to give praise and honor to men, so he has to take somebody who was of low degree and low estate, to where you know that it was only Yahuwah that could have put them in this place and worked this work, and it would have not been of themselves. And therefore that man knows that he has to give esteem to Yahuwah, and therefore the people know they have to do it too. He could have easily let Moses become Pharaoh and he set Yasharal free, but instead he had him kill a man and flee, So by the time Moses returned, he was a nobody. He was despised. He was known amongst the land of Egypt as a murderer. This is how he was looked upon, as a murderer. He the one let him out though. He the one let him out though. Because we don't look at that. This is how I be knowing that a lot of people don't read and internalize and understand what you're reading. You're just reading for the sake of reading. And you still are a pretentious, sanctimonious douchebag when it comes to executing righteousness of the word. Because we make some bad judgment calls. Because we want Elohim and his servants to be how we want them to be. Because the scribes and Pharisees couldn't believe John was that dude. They didn't want to believe John was that dude. They didn't want to believe it. Because he wasn't coming how they wanted him to come. Same way they didn't want to believe Yahushua was that dude. He wasn't coming how they wanted him to come. He wasn't looking how they wanted him to look. He wasn't doing how they wanted him to do. This nigga hang out with sinners and poor people. Who this nigga think he is? We don't hang with them niggas. I don't mess with no nigga. Poor bastard. Don't fool with this poor nigga. Who he think he is? He gonna tell us we a generation of vipers and snakes. And the thing of the one key thing, and praise y'all for it, that all the prophets had in common. And they didn't care what anybody thought or said about them because their confidence rested solely in Yahuwah. So they could care less. And that's being rock solid. And that's how we all got to be. Nevertheless, Acts 5 and 30. Time was at 10:25. Make it 29. Then Peter and the other apostles answered and said, we ought to obey Elohim rather than men. The Elohim of our fathers raised up Yahushua, whom you slew and hanged on a tree. Him have Elohim exalted with his right hand to be a prince and a savior, and for to give repentance to Yasharal and forgiveness of sins. And we are his witnesses of these things, and so is the Ruach HaKadosh, whom Elohim hath given to them that obey him. And that goes back, blessed is he who is not offended in me. Blessed is him that continue to trust and obey me, because I will impart unto him my life-giving gift of the Ruach HaKadosh. And that's why you will be blessed if you're not offended. If we go back and just look at what the word means, that word literally means someone who stops trusting and obeying in someone. Someone who doesn't want to be under the authority of another. This is why the master told them you will die in your sins. This is why your ancestors died in the wilderness, because they were offended. They did not want to trust. They did not want to obey. Because we're just going back to this, dealing with Exodus chapter 23 and 20. They didn't trust. They didn't obey. They didn't want to go into the way that was already set and prepared for them. All that Malachim was coming from was setting the stage for what was to come behind him, which was greater than what was already, because it was already laid out for him. Remember that Hebrew word for beware was just to listen and to obey. That whole discourse in Exodus 23 and 20 was about them listening to that servant, the same way that we were supposed to listen to John the Baptist, because he was preparing the way. And we didn't want to hear it. Did not want to hear it. Did not want to hear it. Drop down to verse 33, I suppose. I don't even have to go no further. Just because I turned the page, so I thought we'd have to drop down. We continue on. When they heard that, they were cut to the heart and took counsel to slay them. Then stood there up one in the council, a Pharisee named Gamaliel, a doctor of the Torah, had in reputation among all the people, commanded to put the apostles forth a little space. And he said unto them, ye men of Yasharal, take heed to yourselves what you intend to do as touching these men. For before these days rose up Theodotus, boasting himself to be somebody, to whom a number of men, about 400, joined themselves, who were slain. And all, as many as obeyed him, were scattered and brought to naught. And the reason why he mentioned this here is, right, you have to sit back and realize that the book tell you this, that it's the same example with Korah, that, you know, that's all that is. That men will rise up to cause people to draw people away after them to listen to them. He told you this in Acts chapter 20. That there'll be grievous wolves to come in to draw away the flock. Like, people going to listen to them. People going to follow after them. For whatever reason. He didn't give a reason why they did it. But most of the time, niggas got pride. Niggas want to be seen. That's what their problem was. He said, after this man rose up Judas of Galilee in the days of the taxing, and drew away much people after him. He also perished. And all, even as many as obeyed him, were dispersed. Now, the one thing you can sit back and look at least for the people's sake, as that they got scattered versus getting killed versus the individual. Because he said Judas and Theodas died. And now I say unto you, refrain from these men and let them alone. For if this counsel of this work be of men, it will come to naught. But if it be of Elohim, you cannot overthrow it. Lest happily you be found even to fight against Elohim. And that's why we came here for. Because the scribes and Pharisees, you come back to Matthew chapter 21, found themselves fighting against Elohim. Because if Yahushua's work was a work of man, it was going to come to absolutely nothing. But they found themselves fighting against Elohim. And a lot of people do that. See, I'm going to tell y'all something, right? The master himself said that he obeys the person who sent him. Oh, that's right. Number 16. That's right. That's what I mentioned. Almost forgot. Let's just pull it out the law so you can see the statement out of the law. Make sure. Number 16 and 15. Oh, we go. Number 16 and 23. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the congregation, saying, get you up from about the tabernacle of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. And Moses rose up and went unto Dathan and Abiram, and the elders of Yasharal followed him. He spake unto the congregation, saying, depart, I pray you, from the tents of these wicked men, and touch nothing of theirs, lest you be consumed in all of their sins. So they gat up from the tabernacle of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram on every side. And Dathan and Abiram came out and stood in the door of their tents, and their wives, and their sons, and their little children. Before we proceed, verse 26 is very profound for this one reason. This man told you to get away from these sinners, lest you be consumed in their sins. This is the reason why you can't be fooled up with sinners in this capacity, because you could die with them. As we know in this particular story, all the people who joined themselves to these sinners died with them. That's why he say evil communication corrupt good manners. And what agreement does Mashiach have with Belial? What concord does righteousness have with unrighteousness? What agreement does light have with darkness? He said, shall we make the body of the master a harlot? Elohim forbid, for he that is joined to one is one flesh. That's just something to consider. You be joined, he say, even though hand be joined in hand, they shall not go unpunished. You have to consider that, and you have to weigh that when you're in situations and around certain people, and have to do certain things so you can judge righteously and justly. This is not a blanket statement of saying you can't deal with this person or that person, but you ought to know you don't need to be joined up with people when you know they doing stuff they ain't got no business, because you're going to get taken down with them. Because to be joined with them, you basically you agree with it. You're taking pleasure in it, which means you're worthy of the same judgment. Verse 28, and Moses said, hereby ye shall know that Yahuwah has sent me to do all these works. I have not done them of my own mind. Moses will let you know my work is of heaven and not of man. He wasn't doing this on his own. You have to sit back and ask yourself the question. Why would this man put up with such a stubborn and stiff-necked people on his own volition? Who would volunteer for that? To be slandered, to be disrespected, but most importantly, above all of that, deal with the most rebellious, stubborn, indignant individual people you could ever come across. You know what I'm saying? This man came and showed them how this man was going to deliver them up out of Egypt. Showed them what it was with Aaron in Exodus chapter 4. They seen it. They were all happy. And when it began to go down, they complained about it the whole time. Oh, man, you're making it worse on us, man. We could have this, that. Are you serious, nigga? Are you serious right now? This is what you do? This is what you do. They fleeing from the Egyptians. He about to split the Red Sea. Then they complain about that. When you know what I'm saying? We come through the other side of that. Oh, we ain't got nothing to eat. They complain about that. Got the manna, complain about that. Then they say we ain't have no water, we gonna die, and complained about that. Then he thinks like, oh, we ain't got nothing but cucumber leaves and manna. I'm tired of eating this here. I'm tired of eating this here. Always complain. This is what this man put up with a day in, day out basis. Went up to go get them a law so just and so righteous, so wise and understanding, and these niggas make a calf and worship it. This is what he had to deal with. He had to deal with niggas who felt like we can do a better job than he is, or we want his spot, who organizes a insurrection to take him down. And he like, nigga, I'm not doing this of my own accord. Are you serious? Are you serious right now? This is what I got to deal with. This is what I got to deal with. And all he was there was my own brother and sister talking against me because I married an Ethiopian. He ain't did nothing to these people. You know what I'm saying? This is what he had to deal with. And you think this man doing this on his own to deal with you niggas? You have to sit back and look at that. Because ain't none of y'all wouldn't want to do it. Only time people want to rise up and do that there because they have low. A lot of people got low self-esteem. And they need to prop themselves up. So they got the scene that the preacher man, the wise and understanding dude who can manifest the text that everybody can come to, and this, that, then, the third. Just a lame, insecure, trying to prop themselves up. You know what I'm saying? And you notice a lot of individuals who like that will not speak no hard truths that Yahuwah says must be spoken for the salvation of the people. They're appeasers, they're men pleasers and enablers and supporters of wicked works. Nevertheless, John chapter 5. Let me make sure John 5 got what I want. And it does. Actually, John 6. John 5 might have what I want. John chapter 6. And verse 35. But I said unto you, and Yahushua said unto them, I am the bread of life. He that come to me shall never hunger. He that believe on me shall never thirst. But I said unto you that you also have seen me and believe not. All that the Father give me shall come to me. Him that come to me I will in no wise cast out. For I am come down from Shamahim not to do my own will, but the will of him that sent me. And this is the Father's will which hath sent me, that all which he hath given me I should lose nothing, but should raise it up at the last day. Notice he say he didn't come to do his own will, but the will of him that sent him. Let him know this is not a work of man, but a work of Elohim. Let's go back to Matthew chapter 21 and verse 25. Because if it's of man, it will show. It definitely will show. It definitely will show.